I don't know if anybody told Kirby about Beamer's comments at halftime about kicking their butts, but I'm not saying they didn't
Right.
because I was like, ooh, I really hope that someone tells Kirby about that.
Yeah, seriously. Welcome to My God a Podcast. I'm Jim Wood. In this episode, John Powell and I review Georgia's 24-14 win over South Carolina. We talk about our experiences on Saturday and what stood out to us during the game. As always, remember to check out the newly redesigned MyGottaPodcast.com to see our latest merch. And you can follow us on social media at MyGottaPodcast. Finally, we'd love for you to check out our presenting sponsor, Oxia Time, at OxiaTime.com. That's AXIATIME.com. Now, let's join the conversation in progress. John, how was your weekend?
Weekend was pretty good, man. It was a weekend of nothing but football. I mean, basically we watched football all day on Saturday, right?
Yeah, we did. There were games on at the tailgate. Watched the dogs, got home. After that game, what did we watch? We watched a little bit of Ole Miss and Georgia Tech, Tennessee, Florida, and then Colorado State. But I couldn't make it through the whole game. As expected, I bailed at halftime, went to bed. But yeah, there was a lot of football on Saturday.
I stayed up the whole time.
Man, I don't know how you did that. I suspected that from the text that I read when I woke up this morning that you made it through the whole thing. I'm amazed. I made it to halftime. So
I had to watch. I am a Dion hater. So I had to fully absorb the hatred because I saw that it was going south for him. And if you look at, we'll talk about the ESPN. You know, one of my favorite graphics to look at for these reviews is, you know, the win expectancy from ESPN. And when you see a game like what you saw with Colorado and Colorado State, that graph is also equally as amazing.
Okay.
So anyway, I watched it all, but the weekend started Friday. We went to we had a birthday. It was a surprise birthday party,
and the podcast did not spoil it, right?
No, the podcast for sure did not spoil it.
Okay, good, because I realized that like later when you told me whose birthday what was, I was like, oh no, because like I didn't edit that out.
friend of the show, Samford alumni and former guest, Paul Muchnick. It was his 40th birthday.
Good.
He doesn't really have a reason to listen to this podcast, but I forgot to tell him about that I like had that thought that was like, yeah, there's no way he's listening to this. A Georgia Tech fan, Samford alumni, like
right.
No reason, even though, you know, even the best of friends are not going to listen to the podcast if they're not a fan of Georgia, right?
Right. It's all good. It's all good.
Anyway, so we went to his 40th birthday party, and it was a great, like, had cocktails and everything. You know, lots of food, lots of fellowship, and I was probably a little overserved by the end. So my Saturday morning was a little slower than I had planned. So I got my run in much later than I planned. So I blame the start on you can blame the start on me, Jim.
Okay.
Because we did not come out looking super strong, and I did not come out looking super strong on Saturday.
Fair enough.
I think I sent you. You guys were like probably already on campus and all those things by the time I woke up.
Well, I made it to campus much earlier this time, as far as in relation to kickoff, than the opener. So yeah, that was good. Yeah, I drove down Friday night to my parents' place, hung out with them, then came over with them and my sister. And shout out to Greg and Rodeo. Put on an epic tailgate on Saturday. It was a lot of fun.
Man, it looked amazing. I have to say, I was having some serious FOMO.
It was pretty sweet. Coach made it. Coach came by. So like hilarious moment. He was walking down the street and my mom and dad were calling him by his first name and he like wasn't reacting. And I yelled, "Coach," and then he turned around.
That's amazing.
It was pretty awesome.
That's amazing.
It was hilarious. So got to sit and spend a lot of time with Coach at the tailgate. That was awesome. And then John Tweets was there, obviously, and he sat with us for the game. So he came with us. It was a lot of fun. A lot of fun. I actually have not told you this story. I had a young man come up to me named Landon and tell me about his podcast that him and his dad have. They've started a new Georgia podcast and asked if I would come on and do some picks and maybe do a guest segment with them. So Landon, I didn't forget. Like I said, you let me know when, and I'll be there. So shout out to Landon.
That's awesome.
And almost as cool as meeting Landon, but not quite as cool. No. So, dude, the father of the official receiver of My Got a Podcast stopped by. So, got to meet Mr. Muse and hang out with him for a bit, chat him up. Awesome guy, really nice. May or may not have told him that his son is the official receiver of the podcast, which he got a kick out of.
That's amazing.
So that was fun. That was fun.
Yes.
It was pretty epic. Pretty epic.
Mr. Muse, please let your son know that we're eagerly awaiting to interview him. If you, dear listener, have not listened to any of the interactions that he's had, I think it's, what is it? Is it the Players Lounge? I can't remember which one it was. I'm pretty sure it's the Players Lounge on Instagram. They're really good. Like it's the same group that does Tate Ratledge's like videos.
Yeah, that's Players Lounge.
Yeah,
or I think so, right? Or is it through the collective?
I think it's the Players Lounge. Anyway.
Okay.
But if you're on Tate Ratledge or Nazir Stackhouse or Javon Bullard, I'm trying to think who else was on those videos, but they interviewed Mekhi Muse on a couple of those videos. Like they have like little short clips and stuff on Instagram. I assume it's on YouTube for the full context, but man, the kid's really well spoken. He's got a good presence. Like even if football doesn't work out long term, like I have a feeling he's going to be behind a camera at some point.
Yeah,
or in front of a camera at some point.
Right.
But yeah. Anyway, that's awesome. Hopefully we can get him on.
I know. Well, his dad was like, "Has he been on the podcast?" I was like, "Well, does he want to come on the podcast?" So conversations were had. So we'll see. That was pretty fun. So yeah. So did that. Like I said, tailgate was awesome. Saw most of the usual crew. Got to meet some new folks as well. So it was, like I said, a lot of fun. Made our way into the stadium and then it was on. So it was a good day. Awesome. So the thing that was surprising to me and not to you, and thankfully you warned me and I heeded your warning, was the rain coming in. So I know you were like, "Is it raining?" And John and I were like, "Oh, it's not going to rain. 0% chance." Yeah. And you're like, "It's raining here. It's going to rain there."
I was like, this doesn't bode well. Typically the way that's the way the weather usually like formulates is
right.
Whatever hits us eventually makes its way over there.
Exactly. And so between you, making your warnings and then my mom, the fact that I was with my mom and my sister, I think is really what saved me, because they were like, "What's it going to hurt to pack a poncho?" So we had ponchos and so we were able to stay dry. It wasn't like heavy of a downpour or anything as like Tennessee last year, but it was a steady rain. I think the way my dad described it was like a finer rain, like it wasn't as heavy. Like the drops weren't as big or something. I don't know, but it was pretty steady throughout. Once it got going, it kind of stayed. So
yeah, which is like in some ways even worse than when it's like a drenching downpour.
Yeah, it wasn't. I don't know. I didn't get soaked like Tennessee. Like everything was just soaked. This one was not as so for right. What that's worth. But yeah, man. Like you said, the game. Like right from the jump when the opening kickoff went out of bounds. Right, it was just like right off the bat, not the way you want to start.
The announcers did us no favors with that as well. Like, "Oh, this is not good."
Right. So yeah, that happened, and then I think Spencer Rattler. Really good. Like that guy was amazing. I know it was a tale of two halves and we did much better with him the second half, but that first drive, it's usually those first drives are scripted and it works to a T for them. He came out firing, was literally perfect on the drive, didn't have an incompletion, had a touchdown pass. I did I haven't rewatched the entire game, but I watched the first half today. I listened to the entire game. Actually, what I did on my drive home from Athens today to Charlotte was I listened to the game broadcast. I streamed it. I streamed like the replay of it. At any rate, the TV copy though, they were very critical of the third down blitz on that first touchdown. I don't know if you caught that.
Rightfully so.
Yeah, it was pretty risky. So
yeah, I would say that was probably one of the. I really don't know. I just don't understand what they're trying to do there, because I mean, I guess we do kind of know, but like it just felt like it was one of those statements that Kirby was trying to make early, and they just didn't get home, and it just kind of led to a momentum swing, right? So like, because at that point we had kicked our field goal, right? It was like,
no, it was the opening drive, so it was the opening zero. Drive? Okay, it was 0-0, and it was third and pretty long. When they did that, basically. So yeah. But I mean, if we make the tackle there too, like I feel kind of like
there's definitely missed tackles for sure.
Multiple missed tackles, and Bullard wasn't in the game. I feel like Bullard makes that tackle. But yeah, I mean, there were multiple missed tackles, and it was a good play design, man. I mean, we had that blitz. They faked a screen to the left and then ran a screen to the right. I mean, it was a good play. They caught us. Like sometimes you got to tip your cap.
Yeah. They came out ready to play in the first half. That's for sure. I think that I can't remember when exactly Juice Wells went down.
It was on that play. So he scored the touchdown and broke his foot.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Then he ended up like going off on the sideline.
Yeah. But like it was like a delayed reaction. Like he didn't notice it until after he had scored or something. It was weird.
Did we ever find out what exactly happened there? Because I was kind of curious too, because there was nothing that jumped out on you. Like, like the Aaron Rodgers injury where they like you could see like what happened, but like that one when they zoomed in on his whole play, like nothing really stood out.
Yeah, agreed. So I don't know. I'm guessing he just because they said he already had a broken bone in his foot or something, and he had a screw or whatever. So I think they felt like he probably stepped. Who knows, man? You step on the turf funny sometimes and it pops. I don't know. But yeah, you can't see him react at all on the TV copy anywhere. Like he just runs into the end zone. It's weird.
He heard himself celebrating on the sideline.
Right. Seriously. Yeah. I don't know. I was wondering that because he like runs into a guy, and was something there happening. I don't know. So
right.
But yeah, I mean, so that happens, and then I will say, like, I feel a lot better today about the offense on the whole than I did as an emotional fan in the stadium. Like rewatching, I mean, we basically came back and matched that. I mean, we marched down the field. We just got bogged down in the red zone. But like we've had these Well, we've had these like slow starts. I don't know. I feel like we've had slow starts, like 3 and outs and stuff. And this definitely wasn't that. I mean, we marched down the field. There was, I can't remember if it was I think it was in the first drive. There was a busted coverage where Dylan Bell was wide open. And Beck, he threw to, I guess probably his first read who was open and got a first down, but could have been an easy touchdown on the first drive if Carson sees Bell streaking down the sideline. So, but yeah, bogged down the red zone and kind of a bummer there because right there you're trying to match them. And I mean, at least we got points out of that first drive, but like I said, it wasn't like it was just totally ineffective offense. It was just bogged down in the red zone.
Right. At some point, I mean, the theme of the day for me was the inability for us to get away from all of these like short and medium type throws. There was not a whole lot of attempts deep. Like there was a couple of times when, like at the end of halftime, right at the end of the first half, we were driving, trying to get into field goal range, or maybe even like have a shot at a touchdown. And Beck takes a sack when he should have like let the ball go. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of like, you were frustrated with the offensive line to a point, but there were multiple plays where Beck had like ample time to make a decision, and his ability to make those decisions seems a lot slower. I posed to Graham and the guys, the X's and O guys, that I don't know how you track this. I don't even know where I would even find the data for it. But if someone out there maybe maybe Ross Rutledge or someone or Dog Stats can look at it. But like one of the differences in Beck versus Stetson in terms of the quarterback play in and of itself, it feels like he's holding on to the ball substantially longer than Stetson did.
Okay.
And to a certain extent, I think that I think that what's happening is that it's just been because early in his career, he he made some bad decisions. Maybe he forced throws. And I guess over the next couple of years, obviously Stetson stepped in, took over the starting role, and it just kind of became ingrained in his head to not like make mistakes and not, try to overplay his hand on plays.
Right.
And so you're starting to see them needing to coach out the game management aspect of what he does. And it really does feel that way because he just basically is just playing to not make a mistake and overthinking in certain cases, or just not even looking downfield because he doesn't want to mess up. Does that make sense?
It does. And it's funny, right? Because people used to say that Stetson was this game manager, and we knew he wasn't. And I think eventually most people got there, right? But I mean, Stetson definitely had more of that gunslinger mentality, and I don't think Beck does. I will say, like, full disclosure, right? That was one of the things that would frustrate me about Stetson at times.
Right.
When we would say, like, take what the defense gives you. You got this underneath route that's there, and it's going to get you first down, but you're going for the home run all the time. And so I think now we're kind of seeing what happens when you do that. Because there are chances, there are times where that guy is open deep and he's going for the shorter one. It's so weird though, because it's like I have these feelings during the game, right? And then it's like, and then you get to the end of the game and Carson Beck was 27 of 35 for 269 yards. And like no turnover worthy plays or whatever, right? Obviously no picks, no touchdown passes. We were able to get in the end zone on the ground, but that's where, like what I was saying, where I had all kinds of things going through my head walking out of the stadium last night. And then today rewatching it, I feel better. There was the two ones that were the misses to me were we already talked about the Dylan Bell. There was another play, I believe it was in the second quarter, the trick play, when we ran like an end around flea flicker type deal. You could see it on TV, but they didn't mention it. Like Rosemy was actually like, he was way more open than Bowers. He I don't know, maybe he's too far down the field or something, but he was past everyone. And then Beck went to Bowers. So again, I don't know, like, is it he couldn't throw it that far? I think he can. Was it he didn't see Rosemy, right? The play is just straight up designed to go to Brock, and so that's what he did. I don't know. But we did see more deep balls. Like we saw another deep ball to Ra Thomas worked. We saw one that didn't. We saw the one that got broken up in the end zone. That was a great planted ball, by the way, by the South Carolina defender. So we at least have started to see us get more vertical, which is what I felt like was missing. So that was good. But, I don't know. Like, again, it's finishing drives right now. It's a problem. You got 2 missed field goals, but if you're not kicking field goals, you're not missing them, right? Let's get in the end zone.
I have a feeling that when we look back on the season as a whole, you look at players playing themselves into form. You hear about that term form in soccer, right? Like you have these guys that come in the middle of the season. They are new to the program. Maybe they're injured. I'll give you, for instance, Manchester United just signed a player that British Bulldog and I have been super excited about, but he's been hurt. Well, he's got to play up into form. And Ra Thomas, not that he's been hurt, but he's been hindered. He hindered himself. He missed some practice time. He's been in the doghouse, blah, blah, blah. But I have a feeling that when we look back on the season, we're going to look at this game as the spark that ignited Ra Thomas. I was really impressed with what he was able to produce. I was impressed with Dominic Lovett, even though I think didn't he have a drop in this game? I can't remember. I think he had one drop, but anyway, both of those guys showed why Georgia brought them in. And they're just such weapons for us. Rosemy Jack-Saint made a statement in this game as well. This was a coming out party for the wide receiver core, in my opinion, even though it may not have felt like it, watching or in the stadium or whatever. They made some tough catches, man. I mean, we're just talking about like the Beck's not the gunslinger or whatever, but like even he may not be like as down the field, like over the blow the top off Stetson Bennett type throws, but he definitely made some really tight window throws on occasion in that short to medium, that 10 to 15 yard range.
Yeah.
But he does have opportunities downfield, and that's the part that, I mean, even with Stetson, we had that with Stetson's like, oh man, the plays are there. Like, look, oh, he's walking in here.
Yeah.
There was one to Bowers. If you just waited a little bit longer, Bowers was breaking open, but he threw it short. There was, I want to say, I mean, the Bowers one is the one that sticks out. And then there was another play that he thought that Daijun Edwards was going to take off. I don't know what he was doing. That was the one. Do you remember the play he kind of like lobbed up there, and the guy kind of tipped, the South Carolina defender kind of got a hand to it, but it went over his head.
Yeah, I do remember that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and you just hit on it, because I think the other thing I wanted to hit on was welcome back Daijun Edwards. I mean, holy cow, like definitely 20 carries, 118 yards and a touchdown, long at 21. And we saw what we missed. And so I don't know, like it felt like, my issue with the run blocking on the line had been like that there weren't lanes for the running backs to run through. And it definitely felt like there were bigger lanes this game, but were there, or is, cause like Daijun doesn't need much more than a crease. I mean, and he can get there, and he gets so low and can like duck underneath tackles and stuff. Man, he was a breath of fresh air. Like it was fun to watch him run the ball.
Yeah, it was fun. Yeah, I would say that he was a factor, right? Like he was the difference maker. And kind of like what I was talking about just a second ago, like playing yourself in the form. If that's Daijun Edwards, who's not 100%, but playing, like imagine what that looks like when he's 100%. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, seriously.
Because there were definitely some situations where it was like, I mean, we were relying on him for multiple drives, like on long drives, right? Like where he was having to run the ball multiple times for hard, long yards. No, I don't know. It just doesn't feel, I didn't get the same vibe. Like you saw Roderick Robinson's carries kind of fall off a cliff when he came back, right?
Yeah. I mean, he only played one play, I believe. I mean, I know he had the one carry. I think that was the only play he was in the game.
Right. And then you had Dylan Bell taking carries, which in my opinion was, I feel like that this staff has kind of gotten to the point where they realize that Cash Jones and Roderick Robinson are good in doses. And spelling backs and things like that. And Cash maybe has some skill sets that the other backs don't necessarily possess quite as well. And I don't know, maybe this is just my opinion, but like it feels like that they are utilizing Cash Jones more as like a receiving back.
Yeah.
But what I will say is that it felt like that they were trying to figure out how to get Dylan Bell. Like it feels like that they want Dylan Bell to run the ball more as a running back, because they're not getting much more from the other ones. And that extends to Kendall Milton too. Like, I don't know, man, if I was a person that was, trying to staff up this team, like I would look at that and say, what happened? Like, I felt like that Kendall kind of disappeared in the second half when we were making our rise.
Well, he was on the first touchdown drive after we had the long ball to Rara. Like the next play actually was, I think, his longest run of the game. He ripped off a long one, hurdled a guy, and ran through down there. But then he left the game with a knee injury. But
right,
but he was right, exactly. Yeah. I mean, he was struggling with the up the middle runs, got stuffed a couple of times. A couple of guys did. I don't know. You brought it up in the preview, I think, John, around like running off the edge had seemed to be more successful, and I felt that continued here. But I agree, man. I feel like the 1-2 punch of Daijun and Dylan Bell is effective. I feel like those two guys feel like they can feed off each other well. I think we had the question of who can play the Kenny McIntosh role, and I don't know, feeling like maybe that's Dylan Bell.
Yeah, I mean, if they can get some packages together for him, like, we haven't seen. I don't think that we've seen his full skill set on display just yet. Is kind of what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And it kind of feels like we've kind of accidentally run into, I personally think that what I've seen enough. I've seen enough body of work with Kendall. If he's not healthy, I don't think that he should be playing. Period. Like if he's even like remotely like hurt,
Yeah.
everything that I've seen thus far showcases that like unless he's 100%, he's not Kendall Melton. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. No, you're right. I mean, he doesn't look like himself out there.
yeah. So
Yeah.
like,
He's clearly trying to play through it, which I mean,
I
admirable.
respect it.
But
Yeah.
but now with Dejan back, right? Then
Yeah.
let's get Kendall healthy,
Yeah. We had our first 100-yard rusher of the season, and it's his first game back.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
It makes you wonder like what might have been had he, been back for those first two games. Like, are we having the same conversations about Bobo running up the middle, blah blah blah, like all those things? Like, is that something that because that the narrative of the offense, and I actually experienced this at the birthday party that I was at, which was actually ironically like Paul Georgia Tech fan or whatever, but like
right.
There were probably 5 or 6 dudes that went to Georgia there with me. It was like a Georgia party.
Yeah. Tends to happen.
I will say this though, I was the only one wearing my game day apparel.
Nice.
But which multiple of them came by. I was like, man, I thought about wearing that, but he's a Tech fan. I was like, I don't care.
Nice.
But anyway, everybody was talking about the offense and Bobo, and I was like, listen, guys, like you got to calm down. Like there's nothing to really worry about here. And you talk about that with this game, right? And you look at, I'll use the ESPN Gamecast as a for instance. Like Carter wasn't like really super engaged with the game and stuff. And I think that at some point he went to like a friend's house and came back and we were talking about it. And he was like, yeah, I really thought we were gonna lose that game. I was like, really? I never really felt that. Like I was frustrated. I feel like I was more frustrated than I was like worried.
Totally.
Because like we said, Munsoning is dead, right?
Yep.
But you look at that win probability, and at its worst, it was basically a toss-up with South Carolina having like a 58, 59%, 62% chance of winning the game when they went up 14-3.
Yeah.
And from there, it was all downhill. Like basically, as soon as UGA scored another touchdown, when we put it to 14-10, in what was it, in the third quarter, 11 minutes left in the third quarter, it immediately swung to 78% Georgia, and it just went up from there.
Yeah.
I believe that like what I take away from that is that Kirby Smart came out and basically said they're going to do it moment by moment, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
And he didn't seem worried at all. As frustrated as I was in the first half, I mean, he was definitely not like happy, but like he didn't seem bothered at all.
Mm-mm. No, I agree. And I didn't have that, I didn't have that soundbite with me in the stadium. But I saw it today when I rewatched it. I totally agree. And I'll say I was never worried either. I mean, this was nowhere near like on the level of the Missouri game last year.
No, nowhere near.
It was nothing like that. Even in general, like around us, although I don't know, I guess I had my poncho like hoodie on. But it didn't, even the vibe in the stadium wasn't as bad as maybe you would think, at least to me, when the folks around me. Although I also had John Tweets sitting next to me, and he was very level-headed, so I think that helped me too. So I was sitting between John and my sister, and so we were very positive people.
That's funny.
So, but yeah, man, I mean, like we went, it was halftime. It was frustrating. You're like, what the heck? Especially when the first half ended on a sack. Like you were saying, like we're trying to get points.
Yeah, dude.
You're trying to get that 2-for-1, ends in a sack, and it's just kind of like, whatever. I'm gonna go get my Chick-fil-A sandwich, and then come back, and then it was fine. We came back. It was like they flipped a switch. I mean, marched down, scored 3 and out, scored again.
So I think the biggest telling statement was I think was it after halftime, or I can't remember when they were interviewing him, talking about like the sideline reporter was talking to him about like what he said to Carson Beck.
Mm.
And I was sitting here thinking like maybe it was going to be one of those like, Kirby rage stroke situations,
Yeah.
but like he just walked over to him and basically said, "Hey, we get the ball. Let's go get it."
Yeah.
Like,
Yep.
like
Exactly.
he's just so nonchalant, and I don't know if that's just like he's just so dialed in
Hmm.
that, or is it that he just knows how to manage his personnel? Because I don't feel like that Carson Beck is the type of person that's going to respond to the rage strokes.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
maybe Stetson was, because he definitely stroked out on Stetson several times.
Yes.
But I haven't seen him stroke out on Beck yet.
No.
But
Yeah. No, we haven't.
either way, it's just like we have the best head coach in the country, and by and large, what we've seen happening at Alabama with the greatest head coach in history or whatever, without Kirby Smart, hasn't been able to really keep it together, for lack of a better description.
Yeah.
It almost feels like Kirby was the glue that's holding everything together, and really is with this team. Like the guy is just so dialed in with his program. It's ridiculous.
Agreed. Agreed. All right. Why don't we pause briefly to remind everyone that season 4 of My God, a Podcast is presented by Oxia Time. So Oxia Time is a custom watch company. They make automatic Swiss watches, and you've got to check out their 2021 and 2022 Georgia National Championship watch collection. So you can go head over to oxiatime.com. That's AXIATIME.com. Reminder that a portion of the proceeds from every Georgia watch sold go towards Bulldogs battling breast cancer. And then also you can use the code MyGottaPodcast at checkout to get a custom presentation box. So shout out to John. Thanks again to all the folks over at Oxia Time.
Yes.
All right. So the defense is still just doing like Georgia defense things. So, other than that first drive, again, the scripted drive, we had the blitz. We did see the sacks start to come. We had the question, who would get the first sack? It was your guy Nazir Stackhouse. He had the first sack in the game. So it was good to see that. And then again, the secondary still amazing. I'll feel a lot better when Bullard's back, but Starks still just is everywhere. And man, it's fun to see a fully healthy Tyke Smith. We're seeing the guy that we thought we were going to get when he first transferred, and hasn't been able to do that due to injury. And he's balling out.
Yeah, I agree. Couple things on the defense. So if there were things that I was worried about during the game, like watching Rattler like pick apart the defense in the first half was definitely up there amongst some of the more frustrating moments.
Mm-hmm.
But what I will say is that the guy Leggett, is that his name?
I believe so. Yeah.
That guy is a problem. Sorry, Carter, but that guy is an absolute unit. It just seems like lately the tendency of going towards a guy that can run, that can run a ridiculously fast 40 time for being such a large person. The guy's like 6'6", 2 something. He's like a Darnell Washington type guy out there, but he's running super fast. I think at one point he was returning kicks. I saw out there, I was like, good Lord, why do they have him out there returning kicks? But what I will say about that is that Dalen Everett?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He was getting manhandled by Leggett early. And one of the things that I feel like that they switched up was like they basically tried to not have him matched up with Leggett moving forward, and they actually had Kamari Lassiter on him.
Okay.
And I thought that Lassiter did a phenomenal job on him. There was a couple of like pass breakups that he had on him. I think one he actually like jumped the route. But yeah, like just some of the little, jockeying things, normal things that go along. You have your game plan, and then you just kind of pivot and move things around, realize where your matchups are lacking on the day. And then you kind of figure it out. And this Georgia defense, you just kind of believe that they're always going to figure something out as the game progresses, and the second half kind of speaks for itself.
Yeah.
I think that at one point, the middle of the second half, ESPN flashed up a stat that was kind of like the story of the game, the yards per play stat. I think at one point, like in the first half, South Carolina had I think it was like 6.6 or 6.7 yards per play. And then in the middle of the second half, when basically the route was on, or that Georgia kind of had taken possession of the game, basically, I think their yards per play was like 3.3 or something like that. And that was felt in the stadium.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody told Kirby about Beamer's comments at halftime about kicking their butts, but I'm not saying they didn't, because I was like, ooh, I really hope that someone tells Kirby about
that. Yeah, seriously. I didn't know about that until today when I was rewatching it, and I was like, oh my gosh, like, did he really say that?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I don't know, like with their offense, so for the 2 touchdown drives, right? So you had like we said, the scripted opening drive for a touchdown. And then, they didn't score again until the drive that they scored on, the second scoring drive in the first half, it came off of that missed field goal. So, it's like Georgia drives down, is in good position. That was like a going backwards situation again, where penalties and everything bogged us down, go backwards, miss field goal, and then boom, momentum shift, and they come down and score. And Rattler did make a couple of big plays with his legs on that drive as well. Right. Mm-hmm. So it was kind of like, I don't know, bookends of the first half, right? With the 2 scoring drives. I mean, it really was. It was the first time they had the ball and the last time they had the ball of the first half. But then after that, I mean, really nothing, right? No points in the second half shutout. I like your conspiracy theory that Kirby heard what Beamer said.
Well, I can tell you one thing. I would not have wanted to be an offensive lineman, defensive lineman, or a member of the secondary in that locker room at halftime, because if they ever release what he actually said, because in the halftime recap, before they took the field, he comes out there, and again, guy didn't look bothered at all. He just comes out there and what did you say to the team? Blah, blah. It's like, still moment by moment, whatever. Right. I feel like it was it's going to be a perfect opportunity for someone to just bust out a Whitney Houston dub remix for the highlights or whatever. But but he just didn't seem bothered at all. I have a feeling that the speech was a little bit more fiery than that, though.
Yeah, I agree with you. Let's see. One thing I wanted to call out, there was a special teams play. Mekhi Muse making a tackle on kickoff return. That was amazing. I don't know if you caught that.
I didn't catch that one.
So there was a play, and they got really backed up. So Mekhi Muse comes down crashing, makes a tackle on the kickoff team, and there was holding, and so South Carolina was backed up in the end zone. I think it was their first possession of the second half. So we come down and score. We kick off. When we kicked off, I think that was when it was. Muse made the tackle. And they're back up, and then they went 3 and out. So
that's not a recipe for success against this team,
right? Yeah, seriously.
So I'll give you something to maybe watch for the season to go on, because I felt this way all throughout the game, even in the first half.
Mm-hmm.
So did you by chance feel that? We were getting carved up, right? They were having success all day long. It felt like it was what's going on? I don't understand how they're having so much success throwing the ball on us. Rattler's an experienced quarterback, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. But at one point I was maybe I should be worried about the secondary. Right. But here's the thing. So I feel that when they're between the 20s, it's bend but don't break. But mm-hmm. when they get into the red zone is when we kick things up to a whole other gear. So it almost feels that we're okay, giving up yards and giving up plays. But when they get down to the into scoring territory, they're looking to either shut it down or get you into field goal position. And then on the flip side, when we're pinning them back, it's almost okay, we're taking the opportunity to flip the field. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I felt that it was 2 different teams, right? So they get into the red zone, or they get into between the 35 or whatever, and it's wait, where was this defense? Why
Yeah.
couldn't we do that before they got down here? Like, you know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Right. And you never know like what the strategy is for the game, right? Because we definitely could have been like, keep it in front of you because we didn't give up a long touchdown pass,
Right.
a long one. Like even their longer passes were still we're running
Contained.
yeah, exactly. And there's somebody behind them and we're like running them out of the, off the sideline, stuff like that. So yeah,
Right.
I mean, yeah, no, I don't disagree with that. I mean, the first half was filled with frustration for sure. Like on both sides of the ball. I'm not going to repeat, the things that I said. Irrational in the game fan. But I don't know, man. Yeah, the second half, it was. I mean, it was a tale of two halves, right? I mean,
Right.
second half again. Rattler got some yards, but everything in the second half was empty. I mean, he had like 6 completions in the second half. I mean, it
Yeah.
dipped way down.
It felt like that they started bringing more, or at least we started like getting maybe more exotic. Because I think at one point they talked about Michael Williams ran from the right side of the line all the way around to the left side to
Yeah.
get to Rattler. It just seemed like that we just had more success getting to him, and that actually speaks to like one of the things that I was noticing as the game wore on was that you look at how this team was able to jump out on Georgia, right? And it's like, okay, all of a sudden we took some on the broadcast, they were talking about this team needed to take some body blows to see like what they were made of, basically. And Georgia took multiple body blows here and still kept punching or kept chopping, if you will.
Nice.
But I think that like this game is just an underscore to the entirety of the SEC that our depth is such that we can overcome a lot of what a team could potentially throw at us. There are a couple of positions I don't necessarily agree with that we could take just about everything, but like it is what it is. Like if God forbid, Jim, knock on your wood, like Beck goes down or something like that. Like I don't know what that looks like behind, but we've shown at the running back position. Dejon Edwards got hurt. We had multiple guys step up and spell the time.
Right.
Wide receiver, Ladd McConkey hasn't played. Our number one wide receiver hasn't played. Hey, note to self, like missing number one wide receiver in the rain, you can actually have success in Athens as the number one team in the country.
Yep.
There's we're missing guys all over the field, right? I mean, Mims went down, and it feels like, I mean, I hate to say this, but like, did we accidentally come across an offensive line that can actually like move things around? I don't know. We'll see, but it definitely felt like that we didn't miss a beat when he went down, right?
Yeah, I mean, we shifted Truss out to
Right.
right tackle and brought in Fairchild at guard.
Fairchild, yeah. And like it felt like that we were taking the game over, but like you look across the line at South Carolina, like there was multiple times where like the body language of their offensive line and their linemen was just like basically what Kirby wants. They want him to quit, right?
Yeah.
And our ability to throw depth at a problem is unparalleled in really maybe I don't know, like maybe Ohio State. Like I don't know that there's a team in the country that can really throw the depth that we have at every position throughout the game.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, with the way the schedule started, we hadn't really been able to have a moment like this. And, you wonder what a team's going to do the first time they get punched in the mouth. And that happened yesterday. And we saw how they responded in the second half. So I think it said a lot about the team. I know that's what Kirby said as well. So,
what was the vibe in the stadium overall? Because that was the talk coming in, right? Like that was like one of the things that was I don't know that controversy is the right way, but it was a lead going into the game was that our atmosphere was subpar.
Oh,
I saw multiple false starts.
Yeah, it was loud, man. It was loud. It was what you expect Sanford Stadium to be for a 3:30 kickoff. And I mean, I would say that it was loud throughout. And then in the second half, I think it got taken up a notch, at least early, right before we pulled away. It got even louder. I was going back through my texts, and I was texting Kim a couple of times during the game, just being like, "Oh my gosh, it was so loud on that third down." Like it was pretty loud. So I feel like the fans delivered. I don't know. There's something about when it rains in Sanford Stadium, it gets louder. I don't know. Like that happened last year against Tennessee, and it happened again yesterday. So
I guess you figure you're already there, so you might as well make a big deal about it.
Exactly.
Maybe the rain helps reverberate everything.
Right. Yeah, seriously. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what it is. All right, two things that are kind of random I wanted to hit on. One, I mentioned that I listened to the radio broadcast on my way home today, and I started to say this earlier, but then I kind of forgot. You were talking about Leggett,
Hmm.
and here's a play where he got tackled I don't know, hard, and Scott Howard said Leggett got clobbered. So I
Golly.
got I gotta find that soundbite to share it with you. But the other thing was on the broadcast. So DJ Shockley actually was the he was in the booth with Scott, and JD was on the sideline. So apparently Eric Zier, I don't know if I heard this right, but I think they said he was in like a over 50 surfing contest in Hawaii. I think,
What?
yeah, I'm not sure I totally got that right, but they talked about it in the post game. They say he was in Hawaii, so that's the way I heard it. I don't know, maybe I heard it wrong, but that was kind of crazy. So you can only get this kind of intel on My God podcast.
Was that a joke? Were they like making fun of him or something?
I don't think so. I don't know. Yeah, we'll have to find out. We'll have to find out. The other thing was just not even really about this game, but about our schedule, and just looking across college football this weekend. There's a lot of craziness going on. There are now 5 undefeated teams remaining in the SEC, including Georgia, and the other 4 are all on Georgia's remaining schedule. So that's Missouri, Kentucky, Ole Miss, and Auburn. So for all the talk of how easy Georgia's schedule was going to be this season, we've got, it's looking a little tougher. And I don't know if you look across right now, like I said, every undefeated team is on our schedule. So thought that was interesting.
Yeah, it does look like he was there for a surfing championship. Sorry, I was like totally googling. Like I was, this
I
was
love
this
it.
was engrossing for me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it looks like that he was at some sort of surfing championship. Yeah,
Yeah.
weird.
I heard it right. I heard it right.
You did.
Well, again, like if you're frustrated and stuff, at least we're not like Tennessee. Although, they couldn't give Florida, they couldn't make there be 2 L's in Florida. Um, we had talked about that it had been a long time since they won. I didn't realize how long it was, and I've already forgotten again. But it was like 2003 or 2005 or something like that. This is the last time Tennessee won in the Swamp.
Yeah, I think it was 2003. Because basically the next time that they play, it'll be like, last time they won, they could basically buy a drink. They're at drinking age.
Right, right.
And then it'll be like the 1980 thing for them, right? Like,
Yeah, yeah. So I don't know, man.
um
Craziness with all the craziness that you've seen. You saw that. I mean, Alabama struggling against South Florida. I don't know. A 10-point conference win isn't so bad.
yeah, seriously, like on a weekend where nobody looked like that they wanted to win at all, especially like across the country. The only team so far that has like looked like that they want to win this whole thing is Washington, which is just still mind-boggling to me.
Hey, remember in the season preview episode when I said Washington, you were like, "What?"
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I need to dig more into it because Graham's been talking about them. That he
Yeah,
thought that they were going to make the playoff, but yeah,
yeah,
they're playing lights out. That's for sure. I don't know who's on their schedule, or have we moved on to the other things
yeah. That's fine. I think
before
so.
we wrapped up the
Yeah, that sounds right.
the CAX as
Oh,
coach.
I was gonna say, yeah. We need to not forget that. So,
We're not forgetting?
the over unders update. So, update on the over unders for coaches over unders. We managed to, and I'm sure everyone listening realized it. You realized it. I think I was the only one who was an idiot and didn't realize it. That we made the exact same picks on the last episode. So we both went 4-4. We were over on the offensive picks, which is hilarious. So we're still tied on the season, but it was raining. If it wasn't raining, our offensive picks would have been way better.
It was we were raining, and like here's the thing: like people will also probably be like, "Oh yeah, if Wells hadn't gone down, like Like
Oh,
I
I
just
know.
I want to put on note that UGA has been missing their top wide receiver the entire season.
It was funny. Like the announcers started going in on that actually when he got hurt, and I was like, a day later, rewatching it, and I was getting frustrated, and I was like, okay, I need to stop.
I was frustrated.
It's pretty funny, even though we like them. It was frustrating. Um,
Yeah.
I guess before we finally wrap, I did want to say I got delivered a new hat to the tailgate, and I got my dad was wearing his better never rest hat, and got some questions
Ooh.
about that. So just a reminder, go check out the new website, the newly redesigned mygottapodcast.com, and you can go to mygottapodcast.com/store to see our latest merch. And thanks again to Working Web Media for helping us get that set up. And again, you can always go to workingwebmedia.com/dogs. If you got a small business, need help with your website or just your online presence in general. So,
Yes.
final thoughts, JP. Final thoughts. We can go anywhere. We can go anywhere around whatever.
All right, so let's just go all over the country, right? So like we talked about lots of football. So we just talked about Washington. Let's wrap a bow around the Washington conversation.
Mm-hmm.
So Washington has been lighting it up against noted powerhouses Boise State, Tulsa, and Michigan State, who's missing their Mel Tucker.
Right.
Who's currently going through their own situation, right?
Right.
They've been putting up all these points. They next have Cal. I'm sure that things are not going to change there. They have Arizona. But to end the season, we talk about like October and November being like where, pretenders, go away or whatever.
Yeah.
They will finish the season in October. They play Oregon. Then in November, they play USC. They play Utah. They play Oregon State, and they play Washington State. They have won 2, 3, 4, 5. They have 5 games against currently ranked top 25 opponents to end the season.
Yeah, who knew?
So
Like
we're gonna find out. We're gonna find out about Washington.
Yeah, I mean the Pac-12 is like killing it, which is weird for a conference that's like not going to exist anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I guess they're going out with a bang or something.
Yeah,
going
seriously.
going down in the blaze of glory.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting because Oregon seems to be the bellwether game for a number of teams. So, like I said, Oregon plays Washington here coming up October 14th. Definitely going to be watching that game because Oregon has equally looked just as good as anybody in the country. I feel like too.
And they play Colorado this week, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
So that's a great segue. Thank you, Jim.
Sorry.
So Oregon is going to be playing Colorado, and there's a lot of hype going around Colorado. I am on the record as being like a huge questioner of the Deion experience out here. The math doesn't make sense to me, but hey, hats off to them. They figured out a way to win and storm the field somehow as a massive favorite in that game.
Yeah, they were like a 20-something point favorite.
Correct. So Colorado State. All right. So here's the thing. So that game should have been an absolute blowout. The Colorado State left, had to have been close to 30 points on the field because of either miscues or misplays, just penalties, wiping things out. They kicked a field goal and ended up getting a penalty, which extended their drive even further so they could put a touchdown. They promptly threw a pick six.
That sequence was insane.
There was they had, I don't even know what it was. I think at halftime, it was like 8 penalties for like 88 yards. And it only got worse from there. So I don't know. Their coach apparently did a lot of film study before the game and stuff, but I don't know. I guess they forgot how to play football from a penalty standpoint. They took out Travis Hunter. I don't even know what the prognosis is on that.
I thought he came back in. I thought I saw him.
No, he came back in, but
okay.
Then he ended up going to the hospital.
Oh, I didn't say. I missed that. This is what happened when I went to bed. Okay.
Yes, I was up. I actually watched the post game interview because again, I kind of agree with Colorado State's coach that there's like a certain I don't know. Shedeur Sanders did the post game interview on the field, And I know that it was like an FU to them, but he was wearing the Dion shades for the post game interview.
Okay.
Which it was a huge middle finger to Colorado State's guy, because that was like what he said. He was like, I took my glasses off, like that kind of thing.
Right.
Which the broadcast crew did a really like over the top job at trying to like downplay that was an insult at Dion, but it absolutely was.
Yeah, it totally was. It totally was. Yeah, I thought that was weird when they were trying to say that.
Yeah, it was really weird. But anyway, there was definitely some dirty play going on there. But anyway, he gave the interview at the end. He was talking about how he was like super concerned about his brother Travis Hunter, who went to the hospital.
Got it.
So
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know what happened, but
yeah, that play was
when he went out,
that
of
was
the
ridiculous.
Game, what I will say is that when Travis Hunter went out of the game, things really changed.
Gotcha.
If he's not able to go against Oregon or the rest of the way, like I have a feeling things are going to drop off pretty sharply for Colorado. But it is what it is. I thought that Dion got out coached. I think that the lack of discipline on the Colorado State side in terms of the coaching thing is probably what ended up costing them the most. But like the plays were there, like they had all the opportunity in the world, and even at the end, like the guy, Colorado State had an opportunity to kind of run the ball and ice the game, but they ended up punting it back to him, and that ended up being like a total Mark Richt. Like what was it? What was that bowl game where we punted it back and they came back, and was it against Michigan State? I think it was.
We did lose one at Michigan State at some point.
Yeah, well, like we punted it back to them, and they came down and scored, and that was like a huge mistake. Like that's basically what happened.
I don't know. All I know is that as someone who grew up watching Dion play for the Falcons as a kid, seeing Dion's son get a pick six, and then hug his dad on the sideline was cool. And then also just like the smack talk really between the two teams. Again, like what we were talking about is like, I know when we were texting, it was like it was fun to see. It's fun to see these guys like that hate each other in this rivalry doing these things like Georgia Tech used to be.
Right.
And you've got the Colorado State guys all doing like the Dion high step on their way into the end zone and then doing the Dion dance to celebrate, to rub it in. I don't know. I loved every minute of it. I thought that was awesome.
I agree. It was a fun game to watch.
Yeah,
it was fun because not only was it regional,
exactly.
which I texted you guys about, like it had meaning to a local community is what I mean by that regional factor.
Yeah, for sure.
And it had all of the passions that college football, that makes college football special. So like, hats off to ESPN for picking to go to that game.
Yeah.
Because that was a recipe for everything that's good about college football. Now, the hype train, like The Rock was a huge factor, a huge like personality that was there at the game, which is great. Like I like The Rock, but like, dude, you went to Miami. Like,
yeah, I was so confused by that.
You haven't been hyping up Miami ever. Like
that was our conversation at the tailgate. Was like, why was The Rock on? Why was he on game day? Like, why was he there? I don't know. All right, man. I know the only other thing I noticed around the country was you had talked about, you thought Missouri was going to have a good year, and they eked out with a 61-yard field goal to beat Kansas State to stay undefeated. So Missouri living up to your preseason expectations, John.
Yes. Also, incidentally, a neighbor in the neighborhood is a K-State alum, and I haven't checked in on him.
Nice.
I did run into him on Saturday. Carter had baseball practice on Saturday. That was where the rain, like we showed up to baseball practice and the bottom dropped at baseball practice. That's when I was literally in the car while Carter was practicing in the rain, texting you guys, like, is it raining there?
Right.
Because this is not good. I do not want to find out how Carson Beck handles a wet ball or how big his hands are in the rain today.
Exactly.
I don't know what it is with South Carolina and the rain, man. I feel like, wasn't it 2019 where we had the rain game too that we ended up losing?
2019 was the one.
I can't remember.
I feel 2019. Yeah, the 2019 we lost, but that wasn't rain. But there have been several. Rain. It's usually there. Usually when we're there, there's been multiple like weather delays. One year it was delayed by a day. Remember we played a game on Sunday because of a hurricane. So
Oh,
yeah,
I don't remember that.
yeah. Usually when we're there, crazy things happen. 2016, yeah, Kirby's first season. I think we played South Carolina on a Sunday.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah, but at any rate, yeah, I don't know, man. Like I said, I'll take a 10-point conference win. I know this is like one of your most hated teams, so I know that was it was a good win for you.
Yes. And I will tell you, like I told you, I actually like told my wife, I was like, if he was at halftime and she ended up going upstairs because she couldn't take me anymore. I wasn't like yelling, but I was like overly excited when we had big successes and stuff. So like,
Got it.
I was definitely like feeling the pressure, so to speak. I wasn't ever worried, but like I was definitely getting hyped.
Yeah. Apparently at our house, Kim moved from like one TV to the other. And apparently, according to her, that was the turning point.
Yes, thank you. All right. So I feel like that, like, if you're listening to this and you feel bad at all for like doing something different at halftime, like something superstitious to try to like spark the team, like don't feel bad at all. Because what I've found in the like substrate of like social media or whatever is that we all did the same thing. If you were not in the stadium, you went upstairs and you changed, you switched up your beverages, you switched positions in the house, apparently. Like you did something to try to change it up because whatever was happening was not working. And I had a complete wardrobe change too. I forgot to tell you, I forgot to mention that. I know I told you that, but like, I wore a shirt that I haven't worn all season, and I don't know that I'm going to go back to it, to be perfectly honest with you. But I went back to the shirt that I wore last week. So
there you go.
It was the spark that led us to victory.
Nice. I love it. Well done. You know, it feels good to make an impact on the game like that.
It does. Yeah. You're like, see?
Too good.
My wife always makes fun of me for that stuff. But like, hey, it worked.
Awesome. Cool. All right. Well, you know, still undefeated, still number one. Polls are out, still number one. That didn't change. So I don't know. Start off on the right foot in the SEC, and on to the next one. We'll be back soon to preview UAB.
Yes, the Blazers fighting Blazers.
Fighting Trent Dilfers.
The Trent Dilfers. Oh, that's what it was. Yeah. Was that who was talking about that? I can't remember where I got that one.
Who said the Fighting Trent Dilfers?
Yes.
I don't know. Did Will say that? I don't know. Maybe Will said that.
I think it was Will. Yeah. Shout out Waiting since last Saturday.
Nice. Cool. All right, man. Well, that was a fun one. And I'll talk to you I guess tomorrow to preview UAB.
We're gonna preview it tomorrow. Send in your questions. I know you're gonna hit them with the tweet.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Go Dogs.
Go Dogs.